Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Star Wars Legends Lounge, the show that celebrates the books from Star Wars Legends. I'm Aaron Motes. Today we have a special episode. We wrap up our coverage of the Legacy of the Force novels written by Aaron Alston, Karen Travis, and Troy Denning. And I have all three of my guest co-hosts joining me to talk about the books, Kat, Jay, and Scott. How are you three doing today?
Doing amazing, Aaron. Super excited to be here with my favorite dudes. I mean, some of them. I have a couple other ones. Anyway, my Star Wars favorite dudes. Anyway, continue.
I'm doing great, Aaron. Happy to be here. Always happy to talk with these guys about anything. So let's do it.
As always, I've been better and I've been worse.
Well, before we start talking about the books, did everyone have a happy holiday season?
Oh, yeah. A lot of travel, and it was really good. It was a lot of fun.
Had very little travel, lots of stay at home, and lots of beverages.
How much snow accumulation you got up there, Justin?
We're probably sitting at about 3-4 feet at the moment. We we
Holy.
we had a snowfall that was a good 2.5 feet last week, and then it warmed up for 2 days, and then we got dumped on again with freezing rain and
Hmm.
lovely stuff.
Gosh, Canada always
Freezing
sounds
rain.
so nice in
Yeah.
the summer.
Sounds awful. Utah's usually good for a good snow by now, but we've had basically nothing, and our economy probably is feeling it. We rely on the snow for our ski resorts, but I'm doing great. I hate the snow. I don't ever want snow, so I'm doing good.
Even St. Louis got some snow.
Yeah, here in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Now, we're not up in the mountains. We're over near the border of Maryland and Virginia, so we're part of the lower parts of the state. We got a dusting 2 days ago. That's our first snowfall. So I guess on December 31st, we got the last snowfall of the year.
Nice.
What was everyone's favorite Christmas present they got this year? Justin, what did you get?
I got a couple of really nice records. One from Ward Runa and one from Rob Zombie.
Scott, you get anything cool?
I the best thing I got was tickets to a game tomorrow for my undefeated Wildcats playing the worst team in the Big 12 here in Utah, the Utah Utes. It's going to be a massacre. We're going to kill them. It's going to be like 90-40 or something.
Cat?
I got a lot of book related things as it do. One of them is one of those like bookshelf inserts that has like a little scene in it, and you have to put it together kind of like a puzzle, but it's like a 3D puzzle. I'll send pictures. It's so fun to put together. So,
Well, folks, I guess let's go ahead and get along with the episode. This was the third time that I have read the Legacy of the Force series. It was really fun talking about it with you three. And from hearing from some of our listeners, Scott, you and I got some feedback on our last episode from a couple of our listeners about stuff we had said in the past. Justin, I know you've read these before. Had you read the entire series before?
Yeah, I've read. It's been a long time, but yeah, I have. I did read all this, and this was definitely that series where there was things that happened that when we were reading the new Jedi Order series, I couldn't remember if it was that series or this series as to when things happened. So there was some of that, you know, the brain was working but couldn't quite connect the dots.
You got to the end of the New Jedi Order and you're like, Mara's still alive?
Yeah,
What's going on here?
yep, that was one. And you know,
mm,
back when I last read the new Jedi Order, I totally expected to see more Mandalorians and Boba Fett, and nope, that was the wrong series.
Right. So it's, like I said, it's the third time I've read it, but it's the first time I've read it in 15 years. I remember reading it when it first came out. I was reading the books as they were published. And then only a year after they were published, I went back and read the entire thing again. So I read it twice in about a 2 to 3 year span. So much like Jay, there was a lot of stuff in there that I remembered the big things that happened. I didn't remember exactly where it happened. Like, for some reason, I remembered Jaina going to Mandalore a lot earlier than Jaina went to Mandalore. I
Because
was
she
very
should
late.
have
It was
gone a
very
lot
late.
earlier.
yeah, I was kind of remembering a couple books of her training rather than just a book of her training. So there was stuff like that. But I do remember the big things that happened prior to reading this for the third time.
Yeah, I had the same thing. Like the Darth Cadus Jason thing, I actually didn't expect to happen as quickly as it did.
Oh, interesting.
I thought that took a couple more books than it did, and I was a little shocked by that when I read that this time.
Scott, Kat, this was the first time reading this series for the two of you. You had read The New Jedi Order with us when we read that 2 years ago. So you had some knowledge of the characters. What were your overall opinions of the series? Kat, I'll start with you. As you were going through it, did you have any expectations based upon what you knew of the characters coming out of the NJO, and then going into this series? Or was this just a blank slate for you going in?
Well, I knew that some of the authors, all of the authors, were also in the NJO, so I think that helped just kind of be a little bit more familiar with their writing styles. Um, and I'm not sure, was Karen Travis in the original NJO? I mean,
Yeah, that one I can't remember.
yeah,
But you are correct. Denning and Alston were.
yeah.
I don't think Travis was. We talked
Okay.
about that
Okay.
in one of our
Okay.
episodes, Aaron. That
Awesome.
she wasn't.
Oh, okay. So then knowing her style from the Order 66 series. So at least I had prior knowledge of kind of writing styles and whatnot. Um, I think character-wise, after Anakin died and Chewbacca died, I was like, no one's safe. I don't feel safe with any of these characters. So I wasn't surprised by them taking one of the characters, Jason, in a darker direction. Um, I think overall, the series, I really liked the character moments. I liked a lot of the scene work. I think plot wise, that probably could have been 4 or 5 books instead of 9, just because they take a lot of twists and turns that I feel are a little unnecessary. Um, I've done a ton of reading in 2025, and so just seeing how different authors are able to either shrink time or move plots around a little bit better, that's the only thing I would have wanted more of, is more purpose in each plot of the book. Again, that being said, I liked all the different stories that we were getting. I liked the different character moments that we got. Um, Kind of with Han and Leia and with Jaina, and then Jaina and Jason. I really honestly would have loved to see more of Ben. I feel like in that finale book, I would have thought his part would have been a lot bigger. So, but overall, like I said, I really liked learning new things about the characters, seeing what directions these authors took them in. Did I agree with all of them? Not all the way, but I still enjoyed it a lot.
Scott, you and I talked a little about the overall series in our last episode.
We did,
But
yeah.
just to reiterate that, what was your opinion of the series as we wrapped it up here?
It was fun. I mean, I liked the series. I enjoyed it. I feel like it was compared to the last series we covered, the New Jedi Order. It was a little bit flawed. Not as good as that one, in my opinion. Um, you know, to go into detail, Jason's Fall, I feel like it was really well done. I enjoyed it as much as you can enjoy watching your favorite character fall to darkness, because I love Jason. I do feel like I feel I don't know. They'd probably hate to hear this. I feel like the authors were disjointed.
Hmm.
It felt like they weren't really going always in the same direction. Kind of like episodes 7, 8, and 9. Like, are they coordinated or are they not? It felt like they had kind of different ideas of where to go, and they kind of kept like adjusting from where the previous person went to get where they wanted to go themselves. It felt that way to me. I don't know. I didn't feel that way in NJO. I felt that way in this series. Also, I'll just add real quick, and Kat, and actually probably Jay too. They'll probably just like cast aspersions, like Shylock on me. But the Mandalorian element was a disaster. It was awful. It did not belong in this story. It felt like a distraction from everything we were doing. It didn't belong. I really did not see why we were engaged in the Mandalorian storyline at all. That's my opinion of the series in general. Fun, good to read Jason's Fall. Authors not super coordinated. Mandalorians should have been not included at all, or maybe just like way less.
Interesting. I can see your point of view. I don't agree with everything you said. I think the authors were a little more coordinated than what you seem to think they were. Kat, Jay, you both enjoy the Mandos. You both
They
enjoy the
do.
clones.
I feel alone on an island right now.
What did you think of that storyline, though?
I also would have preferred that story as its own separate vignette, novella. I love including Kadika, and I love seeing how Boba Fett is going to take charge of the Mando. I don't think that it made sense to have it in the story. I That's kind of what I agree that the authors felt disjointed. I love Karen Travis's writing. I also feel like she really wanted to get in those Mandos because they did not come in until the first book she wrote. And so I almost feel like she put them in, and the rest of them were like, well, okay, we'll carry this along. And it it to me seemed like it dropped off on the book she was not writing, and then it picked up on the book she was writing, and it just felt like she wanted that in there, which the Karen Travis in me also wants that in there, but I don't think it helped the story because, like you had said in your last talk with Scott, at the beginning of the story, Boba Fett is a loner. And at the end of the story, Boba Fett is a loner. Now, he's a loner with, outside powers and whatnot. But I don't like to see a story that starts and ends in kind of the same spot because it feels like he went through a lot of this turmoil. He found his wife again. He found his daughter. Like, he finds so much, and that we get that parallel of, well, now he's not allowed to be around any of them. Really, like you said, crushes some of that hope that we want to see at the end of the story. So
But
I agree that it
he's
was a little.
also always said too that he's not that figurehead, right?
Yes.
So the story does come full circle, but now he actually has more of a reason with his wife, his granddaughter. He's actually made connections on Mandalore that he's now not allowed to set foot on, right? But at the same time, there's a whole colony of clones on that planet that have his DNA. Did they just get wiped out? I actually loved the Mandalorian stuff in this. Um, I'm sure that's not a surprise, but when these books were coming out too is the same time when Knights of the Old Republic was out, and there was a huge Mandalorian story in those games. So I remember playing those games and then I'm seeing it written in, I mean, it's very similar, just like the Jedi and Sith, like not much changes. But now I'm seeing it brought into the, at the time, the modern Star Wars. And I thought it was fantastic. And it also brought it back to, the stuff that we were seeing in the Clone Wars, right? In those books. So it actually gave this thread throughout the Star Wars timeline, right? And it actually showed that the Mandalorians have been a major player throughout the galactic history, right? At times, even controlling the galaxy, taking out the Sith, taking out the Jedi. And is this their path because they've been ravaged by the Empire, you know, the Yuzon Vong? Is this now their redemption where suddenly they're going to be a major player once again in the galaxy? Because all the other major armies are decimated.
Yeah, Jay, I think I'm more on your side of the fence in this one. And I'm not a person who, yes, I'm a Gen Xer, grew up with the OT. I never got the appeal of Boba Fett that a lot of people in my age group did. But I did enjoy the Mando parts of this story. And I, for the most part, think they worked. The part that I was frustrated with, the one part I will say that I wish would have worked a little better, is I wish Jaina had more training there rather than just the one book. I think if she would have showed up in the second Karen Travis book on Mandalore, she had that whole book and then maybe half of the third or maybe all of the third Karen Travis book, that part would have worked a little better for me. But overall, I thought Boba and Myrta's story worked for me. But, we're bearing the lead here. This is the Jason Solo story. This is the Darth Caedus story. That's the most important thing that happens in these books. Jay, you know who Darth Caedus was before this thing started.
Yep.
Scott, Kat, let me ask you a question. When we were doing the NJO 2 years ago, did any of you happen to go into Wikipedia and type in Jason Solo?
I don't think I did.
I did not.
Okay,
There
just
probably was
wondering
other
if you
ones,
got
like-
spoiled, because if you
Yeah,
go to
no,
Wikipedia and
somebody-
type in Jason
I
Solo, it takes you to the page of Darth Caedus.
Yeah, I didn't type in Jason Solo into a search. Somebody though, Aaron, maybe it was you, maybe it was, I don't know who it was. Somebody spoiled it for me that he was going bad. I don't remember who it was in one of our conversations or recordings or anything else.
Well,
I
we
don't
can
remember.
blame Matt or K2. Neither are here to defend themselves.
Yeah, I don't think I did that. honestly.
Somebody did. I mean, somebody told me, somebody insinuated like it's not going to end well for that guy. Like when I was glazing him, because I did. I glazed that guy. A philosopher in a Jedi Order, that's exactly what you need. Somebody to be challenging the ideals and the ideas of this order. That's exactly what you need. And that's what I wanted in that series. As a young kid doing that, amazing. And look where it led him. Awful. But yeah.
So were you satisfied with his fall, with the way they portrayed it in this series?
Yeah, for sure. I think his descent, I think, was done well. I think in this series, it's one of the things that they handled best. Actually, it's a hard thing to write. Like you're taking a character that is beloved, that has a lot of history with these readers, and you're taking him down a very dark path, right? But the way they did it, with backstory, with reminders of what Jason had been through in the Yuzhan Vong War, calls back to, the Vader transformation and how he thinks he can avoid those very mistakes. Like, he looks at them specifically, he's like, oh, that's not me, I can do this differently, right? By being in Jason's mind for all of this, you can kind of see that progression, and you can kind of almost agree with him at times. You're almost like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You're doing this little step, and it does make sense. You're trying to protect people from these things. But the further and further away you get, or the further and further through the story that you get, you can't agree anymore. You have to see, this is too much. It's too far. You've gone beyond. Gone beyond the teachings that you've learned, and you're just going through things that are Sith behaviors that are not forgivable, right?
Yeah. Whenever he starts saying to himself, I can do this thing because the Force has allowed it to, like,
Yeah.
you gotta say that to yourself in a mirror and hear how that sounds of, I'm doing whatever I want and no one has stopped me. That means it's good?
Must be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
that
he
was
made everything okay, right? He had the
exactly.
droids change laws so that
Exactly.
everything
Yeah.
he did was okay,
Yep.
right?
I love that part.
He
I do
backdoored
too. I think,
everything. Change
yeah.
literally changed the laws that they were supposed to play by so that it
Mhm.
was his rules.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I liked his dissent because I thought it felt like pulls from Palpatine, pulls from Anakin, pulls from Vader, and kind of seeing how those different behaviors, but like getting more of the mindset behind those behaviors. Like you said, I think that is why it was written so well. Is we could see the crazy on the walls, kind of like Cersei Lannister. You can see the crazy on the walls, but you're a little bit like, okay, well, I see where that crazy mind legit like makes that a logistic choice. So,
One thing I had forgotten prior to rereading all of these books for the podcast, starting not starting at the end of the NJO, but starting with the series that precedes this series, the Dark Nest trilogy, and now this series. One thing I had forgotten was after Jason had explored the galaxy following the end of the New Jedi Order and had gotten an education in the way different Force-sensitive cultures interact with the Force, use the Force, their different philosophies of the Force. I had forgotten how arrogant that had made Jason, even starting in the Dark Nest trilogy. And by the time this series starts, the Solo twins are now 31 years old. Jay and I have seen them grow up
Mhm.
over their 3 decades of life on the printed page. But I had forgotten how arrogant Jason was just as a Jedi, not as a Sith after he had started down this dark path. Because he was already pretty arrogant to start this series, just the way he and Ben were working together. Do you agree with that, Jay? Is that something that you got when you reread these this time?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I even saw that sort of in the NGO where his questioning, like I love the philosophy aspect and the, arguing semantics and the philosophy, but there was certain points in the NGO where that arrogance of I know better than Luke, I know better than everyone else was there, and I found that in this series that really picked that up and just shot it forward with how he just thinks he's the best at everything and that he has nothing to learn from anyone who's been through anything before him because he's taken different path. He's, quote unquote educated his, in every aspect of the force that's out there. So he can't possibly be wrong. And his arrogance just was like fog light, like just there in this series.
And it makes it easy in the first book for Lumaya to start influencing him without him even knowing that she is influencing him. She's basically just saying, Jason, you're right.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you think is right.
Mm-hmm.
And where at the beginning of the New Jedi Order series, Jason was questioning what the right thing was. Now in this one, it's whatever my first thought is, whatever my instinct is what's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else's opinion that differs from mine is incorrect. So I'm going to do whatever I think needs to be done.
And I personally think that that was an interesting transition between the New Jedi Order and this one, because at the very beginning of the New Jedi Order, and for a good chunk of that series, Jason was actually paralyzed with how his choices were.
I can't make a choice at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
that was at the beginning of the series.
I can't make a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I make a choice,
So-
what are the impacts? Oh my gosh.
Honestly,
So
one of the cool choices he makes in that series is when he decides to stop using the Force for like 3 books.
yeah,
Remember that? When he says, look,
Totally.
there's
I
no
loved
right
that.
answer
I
here.
loved
So
that.
the only right answer is for me to stop using the Force completely. Now, I don't agree with him, but it was interesting.
It felt like to me at that point he was saying like, is the Force even good for the galaxy? I loved that. That's a huge challenge. It's like, let's rethink everything. Is this good for anybody? It always ends in conflict, right?
and then there's in this series where he's taken that sort of mentality, and I'm just going to shut myself off so that no one else can read me in the Force, but I'm going to put all of my eggs in the basket of the Force, and it can't steer me wrong.
The Jason that we knew was gone. We knew it was gone after he had been captured by the Yuuzhan Vong and tortured and when he came back. But if you needed a reminder, in the very first book, when he and, I can't remember the name of the other Jedi, and Ben follow Lumaya into her asteroid, and Lumaya gives Jason a choice. She says, one of the 3 of us, between, herself, Jason, and that other Jedi, has to die, because if not, the galaxy will go down in flames. And it says that Jason went through all these different visions of the future, and in every one of those visions, at least one of the 3 of them died down there. But the only one that ended with him stopping the great wars to come was him killing the other Jedi.
Yeah.
But that, looking back now after finishing the last book, that was also almost prophetic, because Jaina's questioning that at the end of the last book. Was Jason actually right? Did he made everyone come together? Right? Admiral Dalla is now running the Galactic Alliance. The Imperial Remnant has been folded into the Galactic Alliance again. The Confederation and the Galactic Alliance are now allies again. This big war that's happened for 2 years that he set in motion, was that actually a prophetic vision that came true?
Well, I think that's an interesting interpretation of it. I would say, yes, with the caveat, it came true in spite of Jason rather than because of Jason,
But if he hadn't started that war, would that have happened, right? That's the questions that Jaina asks, because ultimately that was what Jason was saying, was that he was going to bring order to the galaxy and bring everyone together so that there wasn't little armies fighting all over the place. And at the end of this war, that's exactly what happened. He just expected to live through it, not,
Well, yeah, and him
and,
not
and,
be the
and
big
be the
bad.
one sitting on the chair. But everything else outside of that is what he was basically trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a bit of what the Yuuzhan Vong War did. It's if you give somebody else a big bad, that they're like, well, we can be jerks, but we're not that guy. That everybody's going to be like, well, if, the enemy of my enemy is my friend situation, then oh, I guess we're all working together now, and we can just kind of keep that treaty going now that he's gone. All right, that sounds good. Kind of like, and that was how that last fix with Jag fell of whatever. They were like, this is gonna keep it in the fold because we have this one linchpin of a person there that can kind of swing the door open for us, I guess.
The end of this series was an absolute mess. Felt like they didn't know what they wanted for the Galactic Alliance.
Now, when you
For
say
the enemy with the
end,
Remnant.
you're just talking like the last couple chapters.
Yeah, like the last couple pages. No,
Yeah.
like the last couple pages. It was like, oh, well, Dahl is gonna take control, and it'll be this thing. It felt, when I say the authors felt disjointed, it was like there was no goal at all for where they were headed, what was going to be the ultimate result. It felt like a mess to me. Dahl as the leader? Are you kidding me? Where did this come from? The Remnant? I mean, they should bomb them to Kingdom Come, to be honest. Like, they have they have they have shown nothing but disdain for you forever. Just get rid of them. They shouldn't be around, period. Honestly.
That's a very imperial statement.
Well, sure. Then they're suffering under their own thumb, then.
Well, I will say the Dala part for you and Kat, that had to come out of left field, considering you had no idea who this character was prior to the last two books of this series.
I mean, General Pelion thought she was cool, so I was like, well, she can't be all bad, or is
Pelion's
she?
great. Yeah, Pelion's great. Felt like they're bringing in a wild card to rule the galaxy. Sounds dumb.
Yeah, I mean, Justin and I know who she is, and yeah, let's just say she would never be elected. At least I don't think she would ever be elected the chief of state of this.
Also, I read some things on Wikipedia, and she's terrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
She's not even
bad
a good
choice.
She's not even a good military leader when you look back on it. One thing that Kat said early on, and on this reread, it really did stick to me. I think my favorite parts of the story were the parts where Ben at first is looking up to Jason and then realizes that what they are doing is wrong, then has to try to convince everyone on his side, between Luke and the Jedi and Mara, that what they're doing is also wrong. And then I just think Ben's arc in this series, on this reread, was my favorite thing about the series. Scott, what did you think of Ben's arc, let's say through the first 8 books of the series?
I loved it. Ben learned from Jason. He was corrupted by him, but learned how to take information and process it and make it real. I loved that arc. He should never have been with Jason. I have a whole lot of things to say about Mara and Luke on this subject.
Yes.
But that relationship between the two of them was beautiful. He learned a lot. He took a ton of information. He turned it against Jason. Everything Jason taught him, he turned against him. It was beautiful. It was lovely. I loved it.
Jay, did you enjoy Jason and Ben?
Yeah, I had no problems with it, and I loved that. I don't even necessarily know that he rejected what Jason taught him. I think
Well, he rejected Jason's actions.
he rejected Jason's actions, but the lessons that he learned, like
Yes.
even from like the other gag officers, he took that and used it in the correct way, right? Not the we're just going to arrest everyone because we can way.
Sure.
He's almost like a sponge So
Mm.
he's like Jason in the fact that he is taking in the methodology and the behaviors of everyone around him, but instead of getting that analysis paralysis of I can't make a decision because there are too many options here, he goes through things logically, but still with empathy to be able to like forge his own path, but still making the correct choices. I think that Jason would have loved to corrupt him because he is so purely Ben. I think that Luke and Mara were so worried that he was going to be like a Luke lookalike, or he was not going to come out of his shell at all, like he wasn't going to be able to become himself. So, having him with somebody like Jason who was like, hey, learn from the universe, that's good for a week. Honestly, he did the right thing in being with the GAG and like trying all of these different character arcs and different jobs really helped him hone who he is, how he makes a decision. And just seeing that in the couple of different steps that we were able to see was really good. So, hoping in the future you get to see a little bit more of maybe Ben showing that you don't have to do the Force any one way. You don't have to be a Jedi in any one way. Opening up that kind of choice for the Jedi Order going forward.
Well, as a reader, the most frustrating thing for me, and I say this in a good way because I think I was supposed to feel frustrated. It wasn't that I think the writing was something I didn't like. I think I was supposed to feel frustrated at the choices that Luke and Mara and the Jedi Council were making in regards to Jason in the first few books of this story. And then specifically Luke and Mara with Ben in the first few books of this story. And you just want to grab them by the shoulders and shake them and saying, can't you see what is going on here? Why are you allowing these things to happen? It was the most frustrating thing in the series for me, but I say that because I was impressed with the way it frustrated me. Does that make sense? Anyone else want to feel like just walking up to Luke and slapping him in the face in like the first book or two of this series?
Definitely. Because it almost feels like at when he's at work, he's like, well, Jason and Ben have to do their own thing. I have to let them be. And but then at home, he and Mara are like, I don't know, something feels wrong about this. And at the end of the day, that's your kid. You should absolutely be listening to those bells going off in your head that both of you are like, I don't know, but he likes his job. Like, there's no parent on the planet.
Yeah, there are two failures here, at least. The first one is a parenting failure. And parenting is hard.
Sure.
Like, it's hard. We're, like, even those of us that are good at it are bad at it. Like, we still make bad choices. We still make choices that, in the end, harm our children and make it worse. But we're trying our best, right? But Luke and Mara, they fail real hard here. Really hard.
Yeah, especially in the
Real
first
bad.
like 3 to 4 books of this
They
series.
just cut
Early.
they cut the strings way too early. They're like, he's an adult, he can do what he wants.
It did
And you're like,
seem
he's
like
not. He's
it did seem like
14,
Luke got to that
13,
before
14.
Mara did. So it does seem like he came to that decision earlier. But like you were saying, Scott, it still didn't matter because they still just allowed Ben access to Jason.
I think that's one of those things, though, that it's really hard. And speaking as a parent, when your child has a friend who maybe isn't the greatest person to be around, the more you push that fact that say, I don't want you around them, is going to make them go further with that person, right? So I think it's and I really saw that with Luke and Mara, where they were really hoping that Ben would see it on his own so that they weren't pushing it, because that push, and they established this, that especially Luke and Ben really didn't have a very good relationship. So any push that Luke did was going to push him away, not bring him closer, right? Any objection that he had. And Mara, I think, just was trying to let it go a little bit longer because she wanted Ben to come to that realization on his own. And unfortunately, by the time there wasn't that option anymore, um, they really had to act, but it was still a very fine line of, we can push him either away from us, or we have a very small grasp of bringing him back to us.
Yeah. At some point, though, Jay, you were at the point where this is extremely dangerous for my child, and I am choosing to not let you choose. And
Yeah, absolutely.
I've done this with my 13-year-old. I've done this with my 11-year-old. At some point, I'm the parent. I get to choose what happens. You don't know what you're doing. And they really don't. They're doing the best they can and they're making the best choices they can, but they don't know what they're doing. And at some point, when they're doing something, especially like what Ben's doing, you say, nah, dude, stop. We're bringing you in. This is why. Because I'm smarter than you, I have more wisdom than you, and you don't get to choose this. And I've done this with my kids, and it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But you have to do it. Because you're the parent. You have to choose what your kids get to do at some level if they're making really, really, really bad choices.
So I can also speak from a professional aspect on this, where I've seen the parents who have made those choices and done the, you're not going to do this, and the kid still runs away, commits crime, ends up in jail. Right? The parents tried to intervene, but had the opposite effect of what happened. So it is a very fine line,
It
right?
is.
It it
I agree with you.
it could very well go the way you want it to, right? It could create a giant rift between you, and if that rift keeps getting bigger, then you're in a position where you can say, I'm the parent, I know better, all you want, and they're going to literally take the next opportunity and out the door.
The difference is, if you don't know better as a parent and you make the wrong choice, then it's wrong. A lot of parents intercede when they shouldn't. But the reality is, when parents intercede correctly, it's the right thing to do. Sure, kids go rogue, kids go do other things. That happens for certain. Absolutely. It's my biggest fear in my life, that I break my relationship with my kids and they don't listen and they go off and do whatever they do. It's my biggest fear in my life. But you have to interpose when you know something is wrong. You have to.
So if Luke and Mara were waiting for Ben to come to that realization himself, he does eventually come to that. It begins with him just going out and walking the streets of the Corellian neighborhoods on Coruscant when the GAG are starting to round people up. He has that whole plot line with the young mechanic that he meets, and the mechanic is like, just hates everything Coruscant, and Ben just doesn't understand why. And then, of course, it finally comes to a head when Ben is outside the doors of the interrogation chamber when Jason kills Aelin during interrogation. He does go along later with the assassination plot of the Corellian Prime Minister, But I think it's when Jason kills Aelin that switch flips in Ben's head and says, wait a minute, this isn't exactly what I thought it was.
And it's the way, I think even during that assassination, he's like, I'm doing this for the GAG. Like, he's still trying to separate Jason from the GAG. So he's like, I don't know. Like, he's grappling with he's grappling with what he just saw happen with Jason.
Well, I mean,
and
Jason
how it
gave him
affects
the
everything
order
else.
directly.
Right,
It's
right.
part of his test to be Jason's apprentice.
Mhm. Yeah, but I think like in seeing Shevu and how the other guy react and how the one guy has to sacrifice himself and then kind of his relationship going forward with Shevu, that was one of my like I really liked seeing the relationship he had with Shevu and how he started kind of learning from him and trying to involve him a bit more in everything. So, but definitely that's where he started his like, oh, yeah, Jason is not correct and kind of to your point about parents, I also find a lot of fault in Han and Leia because I know their kids are 30. However, they already lost one kid. I don't feel like they were as involved with Jason and Jaina as they could have been. So, and I'm not saying any of it is their fault. Could they have been involved much earlier, though? Absolutely. At any point, somebody saying, Jason's doing some interesting things, which they can see at every turn, and they know that something is different about him. I don't know. I just felt like they could have intervened at some point as well. And same thing with Jaina. That's your twin. And you're not trying to intervene at all? I don't know. That was more my problem.
So this is one of those things where I think you can explain it as just part of the Star Wars saga. These are two Force-sensitive beings, and in order to become Jedi, they kind of have to let
Detach a bit.
at least some of the relationship they have with the rest of their family go.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's an aspect of Star Wars that I like. It's one of the aspects of Star Wars that I rub up against a lot. I understand what Lucas is saying about the dangers of attachment. At times, I think he goes a little too far in what he conveys about the dangers of attachment. But for what you're saying here, Kat, I think that's just one of those things that's ingrained in Star Wars, that parents have to let their children go, especially if they're Force sensitive and training to become Jedi. They have to sort of step away. They're no longer one of the bigger parts of their children's lives. So, as we wrap up the first half of the series here, after the assassination of the Corellian Prime Minister, Jason just doesn't seem to care about the collateral damage that happens with all of that. Ben finally breaks away. He goes and tells his mother everything that's happened. Jay, now we get to the biggest, probably one of the two biggest events that happens in the entire series, and that is Mara going after Jason, Jason killing Mara, and ascending, to use that word in quotation marks, to claim the title of Darth Caedus. What was it like reading this for the second time?
Like I expected Mara to die.
Well, yeah, you remembered that.
Yeah, and I knew Cadus did it, so like it wasn't that much of a shock to me. I mean, the first time I read it, absolutely, like I was shocked that that's what happened. But this time, I was expecting it.
So did you get anything different from it? Did you read it a different way? Were you looking for different details?
I probably was reading it in a different way. I mean, it's been years since I read it before. But knowing that it was coming, I probably was just, I think I was sort of counting down the steps to where that altercation was going to happen and how it was going to happen. Um, but I mean, that that fight, I would actually love to see on screen. The way that was written was so cinematic that I would say that's probably one of the best lightsaber grudge match slobber knockers in all of the Star Wars books.
Claustrophobic,
Yeah,
too, in
yeah,
that mining tunnel.
yeah. But I think the way it was written, it really lent into that sense of impending doom, right? It's tight quarters, it's one on one, it's there's no one around. There there was just so much there in that scene that it yeah, like I want to see that in a movie.
So I'm on a similar boat in that I read it a little differently, knowing that it was coming. I the different choices Mara makes along the way to not tell Luke or the other Jedi certain things. The way she sort of sneaks around prior to heading off after Jason. A couple of the ominous quotes, they didn't seem ominous at the time, but they turned out to be ominous quotes in the last conversation she had with Ben in that restaurant
Hmm.
when Ben came and confessed everything to her. Obviously, I can't go back and try to remember how I read it the first time. So I don't know if I would have picked up on those clues. Scott, Kat, did either of you, when you were reading some of the things that Mara was doing, did it foreshadow to you that she was going to be the one to die in the story?
Um, boy. Sometimes I'm really good at reading those signs, and sometimes I'm not. I definitely felt because we were getting more and more one-on-one conversations with Mara. It did put me in that line of thinking of something bad is coming, and it feels like it's going to be her or Ben. We were also led to believe during a lot of that book that uh, Jason thought he was going to have to sacrifice Ben. So it felt like we were getting a lot of one-on-ones with both of them. So I was kind of in the track of mind that it was going to be one or the other. Just when you get a lot of quiet, like you read a scene, you're like, ah, that was a really good scene. I immediately get worried, and I blame Game of Thrones for that a bit. I I blame the Hunger Games for that a little bit. Um, and the NJO series did a ton of that as well. And I thought we got a lot of really good quiet moments with both of them. So for sure, I was having an inkling. Um, and then during that fight, it was a very, like you said, very well done, very epic. And I was like, ugh, they are fighting tooth and nail. Somebody is not making it out of this. And if Jason is the big bad, we might not be done yet, knowing that there were, a couple more books. So,
Scott?
Well, let's start with the fact that you proposed the question as Mara's murder.
hmm hmm
Mara was not murdered. She was killed.
All right.
She also acted like a complete buffoon. Let's continue there. She knew what she was doing. She chose not to inform anybody. And she went after him. And then she set a trap to lure him in. She was not murdered. She was killed in a duel with someone better than her. And she fought valiantly, and I love her, and I think she's great, but she messed up. She did not follow the new life that she was in of informing and being a part of a council and being a part of a team and doing what was right. She went for revenge and anger and frustration. And so she, I'm not saying she deserved to die, but she wasn't not murdered. She was killed.
So did you have an inkling that that was going to happen as those scenes were leading up to her leaving to go after Jason?
A book or two prior. Yeah, of course. I knew Jason was going to kill her for sure. 100%. Oh. She was clearly on the warpath for him. He was clearly going to win because there were 4 more books left. So, yeah, of course. I knew that. But I don't know that this moment was the moment that turned Jason to be Darth Caedus. He thinks it is, I think. He thinks, oh, yes, I sacrificed my family or,
Well, I don't know.
Mara.
It makes a point in the next few pages that basically, what was it? Every Force user around the galaxy felt something change in the Force.
Yeah. I don't know what it takes to be a Sith, right? I feel like still.
Well, you got to read all those. You got to read all those strings. You got to read all those knots.
Yeah, the strings and knots.
All the
and
secret in the knot.
The whole thing I don't understand at all. I feel like he still had to let Alana go to be the major sacrifice. I don't know for sure, but I think in the moment he felt that was his sacrifice, sacrificing his family, sacrificing his connections, that kind of thing.
Yeah, in the moment. But then, isn't it the next book where it says he realized, and now again, this is just Jason thinking this, so is it true, is it not, I don't know. He realized that it was killing Ben's adoration of him is what actually the prophecy was talking about. I'm pretty sure he has a thought about that.
He does, but you're talking about letting a crazy person dictate the actual thoughts that lead to, promotion. Who knows? He doesn't know what he's doing. He's guessing.
Right.
Like you said, we knew it was books earlier whenever he was like, one murder for the galaxy? Sure. Another one? Another one? Right. That was where the dominoes started to fall. So he might think that it was that moment. He might think... he thinks it's 5 different moments throughout this series, honestly. He just keeps justifying, it was this moment. Oh, no, it was this moment. I had to make it to this
step, then this step. But it was just one, really.
Right.
You made the sacrifice whenever you made it to sacrifice the many for the few.
I'm just going to throw a monkey wrench out there. I think when the World Brain was killed, that's what really turned him. Mm-hmm. He lost his best friend.
Yeah.
I think he was broken the moment that bird weirdo squirrel girl died.
Who?
I don't know. Well, she was...
Are you talking about Vajir?
Vajir.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was trying to figure out what you were talking about there.
That broke him. That broke him.
Didn't at one point you said it was like a lizard and we were
No, he said it was a bunny in our NJO Roundtable.
To me, in my brain, it was like a bunny that just hops around.
Now it's a bird squirrel.
I love that for Vajir. She's just a bunny, guys. She poses no harm whatsoever. No, I think an argument can definitely be made for Vajir as well. He thought he had finally found some kind of direction, and I mean, this kid's been without direction the whole time, and then he chooses crazy as the steering wheel for his life. So it's an interesting story, though,
Well, that's a good spot to take a break. I'll leave you guys here in the first half with a little bit of trivia. Darth Caedus, they came up with that name. They held a contest with the readers. It was called the Darth Who contest that Del Rey Books and Lucas Licensing held. The winner was a woman named Tanya Poland. She came up with the name Darth Caedus. Cadus. And as far as what it means, I can't tell you. I have no idea what it means. I can tell you that the first syllable, C-A-E, in Latin means fall. As far as the second D-U-S, from everything I've found, there is no Latin translation for that. Well, let's take a break. I'm Aaron Moats. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Star Wars Legends Lounge. Thank you for listening to the Star Wars Legends Lounge, where we celebrate the books from Star Wars Legends. But let me take a moment and recommend a book from Star Wars canon. Convergence is the first story in Phase 2 of the High Republic Publishing Initiative. The twin planets of Iram and Arano have been fighting for generations. When the Jedi sends a delegation to broker a ceasefire, it quickly becomes apparent that the two worlds are merely pawns in someone else's game. Unravel the mystery in Convergence by Zoraida Cordova. Welcome back to the Star Wars Legends Lounge, the show that celebrates the books from Star Wars Legends. I'm Aaron Moats. Today, Kat, Jay, and Scott are joining me to recap our coverage of the Legacy of the Force series. So, second half of the series, Darth Cadus now has control of the Galactic Alliance. I know it starts out he's still
Like barely,
co-chief
though.
of staff.
Like barely.
He's co-chief of state with
Yeah.
Niathal, but not really.
Not really.
He's mostly in charge.
He's a mouthpiece that is actually going to the meetings,
Right.
and then he's just maneuvering crap around her and be like, well, it's really my decision, though. Well, I think we're just going to do this. Well,
Right.
yeah.
So, Kat, let's start there. Jason taking more and more and more control and eventually moving Niathal out. Even though she tries to get the Galactic Alliance military to arrest Jason, she realizes that she has less supporters. She has fewer supporters than he does. And at the Battle of Fondor, it all comes to a head, and Jason seizes control of the government.
Yeah, just like everyone else, she realizes too late. Like, she thought she had a whole handle on Jason this whole time. She knows he's out for his own game. He's out to be co-chair, but he really thinks he's in charge. I'm going to let him think that he's in charge. So much so that, wow, I'm shocked. He's actually in charge. Like, I wanted, like, Jason really shows how manipulative and political he can be. And I think at the beginning she was a good kind of foil for him for that. But kind of like Mara going into the cave, found out, oh, I'm really not on his level. I'm not the match that I thought I was, and that we honestly needed her to be. We needed him to be stopped at some point. She wasn't the one to do it. Mara wasn't the one to do it. So I thought it was a good midpoint because we're seeing him come up against a political rival. She falls. A Jedi rival. She falls. They thought that they were. So in this instance, Jason is correct in his arrogance that he is in fact better than these two people because he's got 5 or 6 plates spinning whenever they only have 2 or 3, and they just weren't thinking longevity enough, or that he had fallen as far as he had fallen.
Jay, I think another thing to me this shows, even if you take out the influence Jason may be exerting on everyone with the Force, it does show that a leader who is out front, who is seen doing things, while Niathal is back on Coruscant, basically working with the Senate, working with these various committees But Jason is out there leading his troops in this war against the Corellian resistance. It just shows that the people of the galaxy will throw their support around someone that they see out there every day doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he also, he's the son of Galaxy heroes. He's been in the news, all over the holovids
Since he was born.
since he was born. And he absolutely utilized that and that presence and his looks to influence people and get them to rally behind him.
Scott, if Jason's plan was to bring the galaxy to order, I guess his plan was to bring the galaxy to peace through order. During this series, when do you think that started to unravel?
When do I think?
Yes.
Moment 1.
Okay.
Book 1. Book 2. There is no way. Maybe book 3. I don't know. I don't remember exactly when all the things happened. But the reality is, you can't force people into your own view of the world to bring peace. You cannot. He decided very early on, I don't remember which book, but very early on, that he was going to bring this galaxy into peace of his own control. You can't do that. It was fake from the moment he started.
Okay. I think I worded that question a little strangely. What I was kind of getting to was, when does everything begin to unravel, even to the people who are on Jason's side?
The moment he chokes the officer on his deck.
Okay.
That was it. That was done. The minute he did that, he lost. Even though he kept 2/3 of the military after that battle at Fondor, the minute he did that, he lost people. Yeah. They were done with him, to me.
They were scared, and they saw remnants of Vader there. And this is a group of people who not just, I mean, it had been 20 years or so, but they'd gotten together for the purpose of, we don't want to see anybody else force choked. And here we are. This guy is doing it on the deck to an officer that, what did he do wrong? He followed your orders, but not to the letter, or he did something.
He gave bad news.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
She
exactly.
was a bad news
she was
messenger.
like, this is what the situation is.
Yeah.
She's like,
she
you're
followed,
dead.
She followed the protocol.
Right.
Yeah.
She followed the protocol. It was just the fact that Han and Leia faked their credentials, but she didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And and just the matter of whenever he was directing the fleet and Jaina then to keep attacking Corellia, even after they, like, their lines had broken and it was supply ships that were trying to get through. It was just, carriers that were trying to get through. They were like, no, destroy everything, all of it. And they're like, all, sir? Like, those are just, it's just food. And
food.
People, people trying to get, you don't want Corellia to be destroyed completely, do you? And he looks at them and doesn't blink. And everyone's like, okay, it's that for you. Good to know.
The moment where he chose to just execute someone in front of other people was the moment he lost, to me. And I know it took some time, a denouement, to get there, but, like, that was the moment. That was it. He was not going to win after that, to me. We took a lot of heroic acts from Luke and Jaina and other people, but, like, he would have, even without that, he would have eventually lost.
So, Jay, one of my favorite storylines in the book is after Mara's funeral, when everyone believed that Alima Rar or Lumaya, one of the two, was the one who killed Mara. But Ben was convinced that it was his cousin. And then the investigation that he goes on in order to prove that Jason was the one who killed his mother. What did you think of that storyline? Because I think that may have been my favorite storyline in the series.
I liked it. I thought they did a really good job again with Ben showing the skills that he's learned and executing them the way that they're supposed to happen. Obviously, he has an emotional investment in that, but he really had to put that aside to make sure that he wasn't missing things, that he was using the skills that he learned to make that investigation an actual criminal investigation to, I don't know, if Jason ever went to trial for being a war criminal, that would have just been an added thing to it. But um, in that regard, it was a great investigation, but you knew Jason was never going to get arrested.
I think the part that I connected with, or the part that really resonated with me, though, was Ben trying to help his father out of this really low period. His wife is killed. He tracks down Lumaya. He kills Lumaya. Then he believes that he had killed the wrong person. It was actually Alima Rar. He's floundering when it comes to leading the Jedi Council. Luke going through this period of mourning is understandable. But, I don't know, I think maybe the situation showed that Ben can focus on a task. And no matter what is going on around him, what the adults are telling him, if he focuses on this task, he can prove to everyone that he's not just this teenager out there. Am I explaining this well that you guys can understand what I'm trying to say? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it
Maybe I'm
shows
not.
I think it shows a really um it shows Ben in a different light where, obviously he's grieving as well, but his investigation gave him something to focus on, right? To kind of put that grief aside and give him a purpose. And through that, he gave Luke his purpose of you need to be you can't be dad, you can't be husband at this time. We need you to be Grandmaster Luke Skywalker. We
Right.
need you
You
to
explained that a lot better than I tried to.
we need you to take the reins and focus on your job right now because everyone needs that from you. And you need that purpose because of, you know, all the emotion, all the overthinking, the, choosing the wrong path.
The
We, I need
grief.
the grief. You need to focus on what you can focus on and not all the what ifs of what you can't.
Yeah, kind of he infused Luke with the you can't feel your way through this. You have to think your way through this. And that's kind of where he then gets the idea of outthinking Jason. He knows that he could overpower him, but instead, he knows that emotionally wise, he will be overtaken by that moment no matter what. So he cannot be there to end Jason in that moment. However, he knows how to manipulate Jason's arrogance, and so he kind of thinks his way to another solution of I know I can't defeat him, but I know that I can make it easier for somebody else too. And kind of finding in Jaina that person who is able to logically detach who Jason was to who Cadus has become.
So I think that brings us to, I guess, the most important thing that happens in the story, and that is bringing down Darth Cadus. Between Jaina, Luke, Ben, Tanel Ka, all of these people who have been important parts of Jason's life, his family, the mother of his child. Scott, I think you and I spoke in our last episode. That was poignant writing. It was some of my favorite writing in the series. And I won't ask you to go over everything we spoke about in the last episode, but, if you could just say a little bit about how Jason's end came about and what that means to you as someone who really took to Jason the first time you were reading about him.
Sure. First of all, yeah, I loved Jason. I loved him in the new Jedi Order series. I loved reading everything about him. I loved his philosophical nature. I feel like his philosophical nature combined with the torture he took throughout his life led him to the person he became. I feel like it was interesting the way he handled this last battle, because he still dismissed his sister as almost an obstacle, like a 2-foot hurdle that he could just clear.
Inferior,
yes. Well put. He could just get over it and move on. I don't have time for this. I'm dealing with this other thing. And I think it's normal for people that are in a position of power to feel that they can just skip over the people that are hindering them.
Even the ones that were important in their lives up to that point.
Yes, I also don't think he considered Jaina to be important to his life at that point. But yes,
no, not at that point, but up to that.
But the point you're making is correct. They just kind of skip over the important points that they would have originally felt important themselves. They just skip over them. They let them go, and they assume them to be less than important than what they need to deal with, right? And he did that to her. She stabbed. So he opens a door. So in the last book, he opens a door. She stabs him with a lightsaber, right? And he doesn't even react to it, really. She could have just, if she had just gone like, whoop, he'd have been dead. She should have just done that, but she did not. But he,
Totally.
despite her not doing that, just let it go and just said, oh, well, I'm above this. I'm above all of this. I'm above all of this. Mm-hmm. Let me go and let me do this other thing to protect my kid and my wife from this disease, right? And he's so arrogant. He doesn't understand at all that he's on death's door, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the fine lines that I think they kind of walk whenever they talk about the Force, the light side, and the dark side, is that they don't want attachment in either the light or the dark. The dark takes it to the extreme of, I don't have attachments because everybody is below me. And I think the purpose of a Jedi is to say, I don't have attachments because I hold everyone above me, and they don't always make I mean, it's a hard distinction to make because if you're saying everyone's above me, then, I'm here to serve, but serve who first, serve what first. And I do have a family, so kind of having that disjointed. But whenever you get to the Sith, I mean, Sidious does it, and then Cadus does it of everybody is below me, and my idea of protection and the right thing is the only one that matters in the universe. So,
Jay, you talked about how at the end, Jaina thought that maybe Jason did get what he wanted in bringing the galaxy together. And I guess I can see that from a certain point of view. One of the things that I thought was interesting is their final fight sort of paid off the Yuuzhan Vong prophecy from back in the New Jedi Order to where their twin gods had to fight each other and one had to come out on top. Did you remember that when you were reading this?
Yeah, vaguely. Um, I mean,
Because remember, even the Vong were trying to get Jaina and Jason back then because they wanted them to fight each other.
but that's also the story of Jaina and Jason their entire lives, right? And in this last book, they did that multiple callbacks to when they were kidnapped at the Shadow Academy and put up against each other.
The Young Jedi Knight series.
Yeah. Um, but so like that's been a staple actually in their life since they were children. That, you know, they've been pitted against each other in one way or another. And obviously we see the culmination of it now. Um, I think it was vaguely there that, you know, the Yuzet Vong twin gods and they were trying to fight. But at the same time, I also feel like that's they've always been trying to fight for their own space because they're twins,
Right.
right?
Right.
And they want to be recognized for the accomplishments that they have and not be compared to their twin. So I think
Right.
it's an interesting circumstance where they find themselves life or death battle between the two of them, and there's really no other option.
And you're right. They have been pitted against each other numerous times throughout their lives. Although those times they were pitted against each other, they were never on opposite sides of something like they were here.
No, but it's just interesting though that is a staple of their life that they are always pitted against each other, and now to have it happen in this epic battle where yes, they are on other side, and it is a life, probably the actual first time it's actually a life or death fight
Sure.
between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
The story ends. Jason is gone. In some way, peace has returned to the galaxy. Han and Leia and Jaina have kind of taken custody of Alana. They're going to pass her off as a war orphan.
Han and Leia, who are they?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. And I'll pose this to Scott and Kat because Jay, you kind of know where we're going from here. Scott, I'll start with you. The way everything was left off, where do you think things will head as we go forward in the timeline? And is there anything specifically that you would want or whether you would hope to see?
Well, I mean, I don't know where the books went from
Right,
here.
that's why I asked you the question.
Sure. Honestly, I gotta say, I think they would die very quickly. We got Luke is 60 something years old, Leia too. Han is
In his 70s.
75 or something.
Yep.
Like, the main characters of this series are old, dying, can't do stuff. I feel like this series tried to remove them from the main action with, we didn't really talk about it, but like varying degrees of success. Oh, I can't change things because Cadus will know I'm changing them. Oh, I can't go fight because I will succumb to the dark side. How many times have we seen people succumb to the dark side and overcome it? Come on. Like, they're clearly trying to move the series onto younger characters. But who do we got? Who do we got? Tahiri? Tenokawa? Zek? Jag? I mean, we got Ben for sure. He's apple pie. It's good. But, like, it's not going to work. I don't know how long the Legend series goes after this, but and I didn't look, but, like, I would predict it's not long. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about anything but Luke and Leia and Han. That's my prediction.
Kat, what would you like to see going forward?
I think that I definitely have some interest in Ben and Jaina. I would love to see them take over the Jedi Order at this point, and Luke can retire and be a Yoda, giving like interesting bits of knowledge, some small warnings, and little nuggets of wisdom here and there. But like, go hang out on a beach, like mourn your wife properly, and just be out of it because they expect him to fix everything. And then they're like, oh, you're having like an emotional thing because your wife died. That's really inconvenient for us. No, it's not. Let him be a human being. Like at the end of the day, yes, you're Jedi. It'd be fantastic to be able to not be attached. However, we have created this society where now we can have wives, we can have families, which I think is the correct move because not having any of these attachments is where Cadus got to, is where Palpatine got to. So, like, you're always going to have the good and the bad side of the coin. But I would just love to see Ben and Jaina, who I think look at the world in more reality and more logic. They've been around the small folk. They've, you know, had those small conversations with people throughout the galaxy to see that, oh, these are people attached to these ideals that we are talking about. And so if they were able to take the Jedi Order in a different direction of let's just do what we originally were supposed to do and bring charity to the peoples of the world. We don't have to be an army. We don't have to be a force. We can just be a charity organization. And I'd like that. Everybody else, retire. Just have your days on the beach. That's all.
Jay, you and I know where the story is headed, at least the big things.
I actually don't. The next series, I only got maybe 3 books in.
But you at least know how it starts.
I'm
I'm not saying you remember it, but
it
you
might
at
be
least know how it
it,
starts.
it might be
it's
it
in
might be
there.
up in that brain somewhere, but I honestly don't remember at all.
I feel like it's a very interesting path what's going next because yeah, I'm wondering, as Kat and Jay probably are, where do you go? Because what stories do people care about?
So I would posit that the New Jedi Order series was written to, like you say, Scott, move some of those legacy characters out so that the newer characters can take over. Not that they were ever going to take Luke, Han, and Leia completely off the board, but they were no longer going to be the central focus of the storylines going forward. If the New Jedi Order was nominally Anakin playing the central role until the end, and then Jason became the central figure, quote unquote, This storyline mostly revolves around Jason. From what I remember, Jay, in the Fate of the Jedi series, it's kind of Ben's story. The thing that has always bugged me as a person who has really loved Jaina Solo, she being one of my 2 or 3 favorite characters in all of Legends, the Legends publishing stopped right before she got her series. The placeholder was called the Sword of the Jedi series. It was supposed to be written, from what I remember, by E.K. Johnston. She's been a writer in canon.
She wrote Ahsoka.
She wrote the Ahsoka novel.
Phenomenal.
From what I remember, that was supposed to focus on Jaina, Jag, Ben, and Tahiri.
So the next podcast I'm hearing is the 4 of us fanficking what would have happened in the Sword of the Jedi, and I'm
No, they wrote them. They wrote them, right?
No. They were never written. They were never written.
Nothing happens after this series?
No. Stuff happens. The next series is called The Fate of the Jedi. Ben is sort of the central figure in the Fate of the Jedi series. Jaina's in it, but it's mostly Ben and Luke. The Sword of the Jedi series was supposed to come after that. So I was looking it up. E.K. Johnston, yes, she wrote the Ahsoka novel in 2016. She also wrote the 3 Padme Amidala novels, the YA novels, and she wrote the one focused on Kira from Solo, Crimson Cline.
But Aaron, how much of this was like, oh, yeah, Disney bought the stuff, let's just wait?
Well, when Disney bought everything was off the table.
2016, right?
No. Disney bought Star Wars in October 2012, and then in the spring of 2014 is when they decided that Legends was ending. Just Legends was done.
But like, how much did they greenlight? I mean, this is maybe not where you want to go with this conversation, but like, feels like, why? Doesn't feel like they might have invested a lot after that.
Maybe I don't understand what you're asking.
Monetarily, intellectually, what are they aiming at?
Well, I don't know. All I can tell you is in early 2014 is when they decided to stop Legends. And I will say, I was angry, but I completely understood it, and I do believe it was the correct decision. I just believe, not that I believe, I wish E.K. Johnston would have been able to write, because I believe it was supposed to be 3 books. I think it was supposed to be a trilogy. I would have liked to have her to be able to write those 3 books before 2014 when Legends was ended.
But I think even like with the new Jedi Order, I think it started there. Whoever was in the publishing aspect of Star Wars, I think this was even before it had been sold. It seems like they were actually trying to put a close on a lot of storylines, tie up a lot of things in these last series. So I don't know if they were maybe planning on having a pause for a time period, because that's when I read these books, that's kind of the impression that I was getting, was that there was something that was coming that was seeming like an ending point.
Well, I think maybe some of the reason they were starting to wrap up some of the storylines, Jay, is because, remember, before he sold it to Disney, when Lucas started in on the Clone Wars animated series, he was there a lot in the first couple seasons, the first 2 to 3 seasons. And then he sort of backed away as he started sketching out the outlines for episodes 7, 8, and 9 himself. He was going to do those.
Yeah.
And I do believe that if Lucas would have gotten to do 7, 8, and 9, he would have put a stop to the Legend stories, because those movies would have come obviously after episode 6, and look at all these books that we had after episode 6. So I think he was going to stop it anyway myself. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know unless someone just asked him directly, but I believe he would have put a stop to these books going forward.
Aaron,
Yes.
would the books have succeeded? Period. I mean, we got what? We got Zek, we got Jaina, we got Jag, we got Ben. Would it have, like, could they have sold any books?
I guess. I don't really know. I don't
What do
know
you
how
think?
well
Like-
the books
like-
sold.
Sorry, let me put it a different way. I see Luke getting older. I see Leia getting older. I see Han at like almost
90.
freaking 80. Like, I like these other characters. I like Jag. I like Jaina. I like Ben. He's apple pie, to be honest. I don't really like Ben. I gotta be honest. I don't. But, like, could they have sold these books without the main characters? Really? Like, going forward into the future?
I think for me,
Yeah, they sold lots of books without the main characters.
I mean, there are a lot of other books in Legends that don't really involve the timeline. That are just, but those are one-offs. They're not series books.
How'd they do?
I don't know. We'd have to ask whichever one of the different publishers published them. I have no idea.
I can only speak for myself. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in reading about Jaina and Jag. I'm not interested in reading about Ben. They did not grab me enough in these 30 books that I read about them to want to read about them.
All right.
They didn't. I feel like I just broke something.
No, I mean, I just disagree with you, but it's your opinion.
Okay.
You know?
It is. Yeah.
I think the story has to continue on, and I'm perfectly fine with it leaving them in the dust at this point. But I'm also not an original trilogy. Like, the first time I watched the trilogy, I watched in timeline order. So I watched the prequel series first and then the original, and I loved the prequel series. So
Sure.
I never found a problem with it. And so, like, the original trilogy, I was like, this is good too. I was a little mad that Ewan McGregor was not in the first three. But other than that, I thought it was good. But I'm very much a person that I get excited by the world a story takes place in. And so being able to see how different characters interact with that world and how they are trying to change the Jedi Order or get different opinions or feelings out of that is where I'm finding the interest of how are you taking these specific ideas to Star Wars and how are you trying to challenge them in different ways. And so I think that's why they had Anakin, Jason, and Jaina come out initially of the NJO in such different aspects of how they thought about the Force. And so that's kind of fueled how they go into adulthood, besides Anakin, obviously. But even Anakin's death then kind of sways Tahiri and her feelings on the matter.
So, Aaron,
Yes.
it's just an ignorant question. Where did it go after this? What did they do? Did these novels that tried to build on the future with Jaina and Ben, and how did it go?
So there's only either 14 or 15 novels after this. The next couple are just 2 novels that are tie-ins to the Jedi Academy video game. So they don't really involve any of these characters. The main character is a Jedi Knight named Jaden Korr. After that, you have the 9-book Fate of the Jedi series. And in that one, they start delving into more of the higher fantasy aspects of Star Wars. If you
Like dwarves and magic and stuff?
let's just say Mortis has a part in the Fate of the Jedi series. The father, the son, and the daughter. The Fate of the Jedi series was published between 2009 and 2012. Of course, the Clone Wars animated series started in 2008 on television. Now, they had started developing that series back in late 2005, early 2006. I don't know when they would have started developing the Fate of the Jedi book series. And I don't know how much interaction the authors would have had with Lucasfilm and what was going on in the Clone Wars series. But they did take at least one or two things that they saw in the Clone Wars animated series and started putting it into the Fate of the Jedi series. So, Scott, I think all three of you like high fantasy more than I do. Not that I don't like not that I don't like fantasy, but if you have like the spectrum of fantasy to sci-fi, I'm probably in the middle, maybe slightly on the sci-fi side of the middle than I am on the fantasy side. Basically, the Fate of the Jedi series is a series where this tribe of Sith that have been isolated and lost in the galaxy since the old Republic time.
But not those same Sith we saw in this series.
No.
A different set.
The one Sith is tied into that
the Legacy comics.
The Legacy comics that Justin likes that take place a century later.
Yeah.
This is called the Lost Tribe. They were marooned on a planet, an extremely primitive planet. And it's just taken them thousands and thousands and thousands of years in order to develop a way to get off the planet.
They were stranded on Earth. You could say it.
No, they weren't stranded on Earth.
Bunch of monkeys running around.
But that's what I was going to mention. There may be something in this series that ties into something in canon now. If one of the things that may happen in season 2 of the Ahsoka television show happens in season 2 of the Ahsoka television show. And I didn't plan this early on. I set my schedule 5 years ago, and this just happens to hit at the same exact time, which serendipity,
Perfect.
Man.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, but yeah, Justin, to answer your question, I plan on doing that in the fall of this upcoming year,
Awesome.
2026.
And then we start fanficking, guys.
Yeah. Then we can start fanficking with Jaina.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a lot of steamy romance.
You're gonna have to change the rating on these episodes then, Aaron.
Oh, we don't have to put the fanfics. We don't have to put the fanfics out. We can just do it amongst ourselves. We can have.
I mean, Jaina's gonna be like 45 at that point. Prime.
So let's see.
Spot.
The Fate of the Jedi series takes place 43 to 44 ABY. Jaina was born in 5 ABY, so she'd be in her late 30s in the Fate of the Jedi series.
I feel like it's 9.
Oh, yeah,
like
a little later. You're probably right.
ABY, I think.
Your brain for timelines is incredible. That's the one
Mine?
thing. Both of you, like my brain. I'm so confused half the time by timelines of where things are happening and when.
No, I was just looking at timelines earlier.
Yeah,
with
Jaina was
various
born.
characters,
Jaina was born
so-
in 9 ABY. Fate of the Jedi takes place in 43, 44 ABY. So at the end of that
And we're looking at-
series,
she's like 33 or something.
yeah, she'll be
30.
34/35.
Right in her prime. Perfect.
But yeah, Jay, I'll have to have you on for that. You can read that along with watching the Ahsoka show. See what,
Perfect.
if anything, matches up.
So sign me up.
The Ahsoka show. Ugh.
All right. Good night, Scott. It was really great seeing you. Just
I
kidding.
love Ahsoka. She's like one of my favorites. The show was not good. I'm just saying it.
Oh,
I will say that the show was not my favorite of the television shows either. There were a couple.
Thank you
There were parts
for
that
defending me.
there were parts that I liked. There were parts that I didn't like. But I think I've been like that with every show that's come out.
Yeah.
absolutely.
I
But
mean, I
think
just
that's
like
fine.
seeing.
You know,
I also
Boba
think it's
Fett had
fine for a
zippers.
show to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
A show is fine to be fine. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're putting out so much content. They are just looking for fine at this point.
They aren't though. It's been a bit like flat
Yeah.
for a bit.
Yeah.
Feels like
It just felt
they're
like
scared.
the last 2 years was a dumping.
Well, if
Yes.
you like Star Wars animation, the Maul animated series comes out this year.
Yeah.
Ball,
I'm gonna have
Yep.
to get
Maul Shadow Lord.
just like balls rolling around.
Maul.
Maul.
M-A-U-L.
M-A-U-L.
With an M.
Jeez.
Okay, got you. Hey,
Is
calm
Sam
down.
Witwer? Is he doing the voice?
He is.
Good
Oh,
for him. Good
I
for
have to
Sam.
get Disney
Glad he has
again. It's so expensive.
It's also partially his idea, apparently,
I
Where-
love that even
of
more.
the story. He said
Yeah.
that at Celebration.
I trust him.
Good.
I trust him with that.
I like Sam.
So that should be coming out this year. I'm going to assume. So if you look at it this year, 2026, we know that on-screen Star Wars, we have Mando and Grogu, the movie that comes out in May.
Yep.
I'm going to bet Maul Shadow Lord comes out after that in the summer. I don't think they're going to do that before because I don't think they're
As a
going to
movie?
take...
No,
What's
it's a
that?
show. Isn't that like a
As a-
Olympic series or?
It's a show.
The show. I'm just going to say I don't
Sorry.
think the show
I
is
thought
going
you
to
were
come
talking
out
about
before
movies. I'm
that.
sorry.
I
Yep.
think they're going to have the movie first because that's what they're going to want to market. You know, I don't think they want anything to take away from that. They'll
Yeah.
do
That's coming out in like March. I think I saw a timeline.
what?
Mandalorian and Grogu.
No,
I
it
think it's
comes
about
out in May. It comes out in May.
Oh, May.
Yeah. So, and we don't have a time yet for Maul Shadow Lord. I'm just, in my brain, I'm thinking it'll come out in the summer after that, maybe in June. And I think they're holding Ahsoka to the fall. Because I don't think they're going to get Ahsoka to go before Mando and Grogu.
I think Ahsoka's August.
Yeah. So if it's like the last time, it'll start late August and it'll go to, if it's 8 weeks again, it'll go to like the end of October.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And then completely unrelated to the timeline, there is a limited series coming out based on one of the Visions shorts from season 1. Well then, I guess let's wrap this puppy up. Listener, if you'd like to contact the show, you can send me an email at swlegendslounge@gmail.com or send me a message on Blue Sky, Instagram, or Twitter at swlegendslounge. And you can send in your questions, your comments, or your Star Wars character groupings. I enjoy reading everything you guys send me in. Kat, Jay, Scott, thank you very much for joining me today, and thank you for taking this journey with me through the Legacy of the Force series over the last 4 months.
Love you guys. So much fun.
Oh, I always have fun. Aaron, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Listener, thank you so much for joining us here on the Star Wars Legends Lounge. I'm Aaron Motes. May the Force be with you. I'll see you again in 2026. Remember, there's always a bit of truth in Legends.